So in the middle of this, obviously, we here at Daily Wire had been foraying into the film industry. We had released our first film a little bit earlier this year, Run, Hide, Fight. Our audience really loved it. And when we saw that you were trending, my business partner, Jeremy, and I, we thought, the first thing we thought was, number one, somebody should reach out to Gina because she's getting maligned unfairly. But number two, we should reach out to Gina because this is an opportunity for conservatives and people who think differently to say to Hollywood that you're not allowed to just cancel whomever you want. And I mean, I have to say that I was amazed at how readily you were willing to jump into a project with derelicts like us and willing to get involved in one of our projects. Because it is a unique thing. I mean, in Hollywood, typically the advice is keep your head down, make an apology. Maybe in 3-4 years, you can sort of wheedle your way back into the industry. But you didn't do any of that. You were basically ready to go from the moment I gave you a call. I wanted to get your perspective on that.
Well, because, in my newfound, finding my political voice, you're actually one of the people I found, as well as a bunch of, your book was the first one I read. And it just really kind of, it was so simple that it really kind of explained like the events in such a good way to where it was like, it just felt logical. It felt logical. So I'm obviously like so excited that you called. I was prepared to at any point get let go because I've seen this happened to so many people. I've seen the looks on their faces. I've seen the bullying that takes place. They've quit Twitter, they've quit speaking. They show up to their red carpets and they're depressed and they're sad and there's hardened hearts there. And I was like, you're coming for me. I know you are. They're making it very obvious through their employees that were coming for me. And so I was like, well, then I'm gonna go down swinging then, and I'm gonna stay true to myself, and I'm gonna let that speak. And I think that's speaking. So when you called, I'm still like, my body still is shaking. It's still devastating. But the thought of this happening to anybody else, especially like somebody who could not handle this the way I can. No, they don't get to do that. They don't get to make people feel like that. And if I buckle, then little girls and little boys who are not getting they're not getting a good, fair shake at growing up right now. If I buckle, it's going to make it okay for these companies who have a history of lying to beeline and to do this to other people. And they've done it to other people. And I'm not going down without a fight.
Well, we couldn't be more excited to be working with you, obviously. And you can see that the left is creating a whole new cottage industry for us because as they keep canceling people for no good reason, we are perfectly happy to work with talented people of every stripe, especially after the left decides that they are terrible by dint of having differing points of view. So I want to backtrack here a little bit and talk about how you even got into acting in the first place, because you have the most unique acting story that I know of. I mean, you started by hitting people in the face. So why don't we start? Why don't we start with that? Like, how did when people think actress, typically they don't think a person who used to be an MMA fighter. So first, and when they think MMA fighter, they don't tend to think female generally. So you were the first big female MMA star in America. How did you get into MMA? That's sort of a unique career path.
Oh, well, definitely not by my family's approval. My family actually did everything they could to make sure that first sanctioned fight in Las Vegas for a female women's MMA match did not happen. And so I was having to go through all these extra tests, and I found out like who I love so much, my Papa Don, who passed away, and my dad, who's still around, had called the athletic commission, and my dad used to serve on the athletic commission, so they were. So I was going through some extra tests because he did not want me to be a fighter. They wanted me to, really go to school and become a doctor, a lawyer. And, my family is the type of family on both sides. You're not getting you're not getting anything for free. You earn your keep, you're responsible, and you get out there and you work. And so I was like, okay, that's what I'm doing. And I don't like money being hung over my head ever. So this is just something, fighting was just something that spoke to me, like it just made me want to get in the gym. It made me, I was good at it. I've been in fights so many times in Las Vegas anyways, never that I started. Um, I was always like defending people. It's like, I am able to walk away from a fight, but when I realize it has something to do with somebody else and I have like, there's this hot blood that goes through me and then things happen. But so, yeah, I just started fighting and I loved it. It's like all of the bad things I was doing and I've had friends shot in the head and left in the desert. I have been stabbed in the head and left in the desert in Las Vegas. Overdoses and the whole story of like this tragic thing. And I was like, okay, why don't you just try to give life a chance? And I started training and fighting and it just became my new addiction. And from the moment I started doing it, everybody was pointing a camera at me. I was like, I'm actually extremely shy. I'm actually like, it's hard for me, performing or talking and having things. But I think I'm getting a little bit better at it.
So I will admit, although you probably couldn't tell, being that I am such an Adonis-like figure, I mean, such an amazing Greek god of masculine power, I'm not a person who's done a lot of fighting. As you maybe you might have guessed that. I don't know.
No, you
but
never know.
Yeah, no. Most people have picked up on that. In any case, what is it like to be a professional fighter? What is it like? That's always been fascinating to me because as somebody who, went to Jewish day school and basically fights consisted of people, randomly wailing on each other without any sort of real form or. Let's put it this way: no one from my Jewish day school ended up as a professional fighter. So, what is it like being a professional fighter? What's it like walking into a ring and knowing that you have to beat the hell out of somebody else in order to win?
Well, I think it starts in walking into a gym. And the most beautiful thing about walking into a mixed martial arts gym is it doesn't matter what color you are, what religion you are, if you're a cop or if you're not, it doesn't matter who you are. You get into that gym and you start training together and it's everybody in that gym. And, you get humbled every single day. And then you learn how to like be a part of a team. And then you start taking care of each other. And then you start seeing, you see all the weaknesses of like, the ego flare-ups. And then like, wait, okay, so, you really have to balance your ego in an MMA gym. Because if your ego gets ahead of you, like that's a weakness. So like, I love that. I love genuine and I love real human beings. And so that was like a place of like everybody in this, everybody belongs here. And the fighting part, that was hard. But there's nothing like facing a fear, and it's very intimate. It's like I'm attracted to intimacy as well. So when you look across a ring and you're looking at that person's eyes, this is all about to get very real and it's only going to be me and you and there's going to be a genuine interaction. And I crave those kinds of things. That was addicting to me.
Did you have to learn to take a punch? I mean, how does that work? As somebody who has full-time security, I will never have to deal with this. So.
I don't know. I just, since I had been in fights growing up, I have an incredible, chin. I have like my nose. I think it just like it takes. If I bleed, I'm hurting because I'm not a bleeder, and my chin is just good. So I have this special little talent that I have. I hit pretty hard, and like I've been very complimented on how hard I can hit. And so I became addicted to it, and I still have a little bit of an addiction to it.
Do you still do MMA in your
my whole garage is like the whole life. I have so many friends that are fighters, and they're so real. Like you point a camera at them, and it's like effortless because they haven't sold themselves. They haven't sold themselves. They own themselves and they know that they're going to take themselves into battle against another person. And I like that as well. Like being a part of Hollywood, people are stabbing you in the back left and right and people are willing to cut your throat just to get another job. And you're like, whoa, like I've never been that way. I'm never gonna. Actually, I've when I did American Gladiators, um, we were doing the jousting thing, and I took down this girl, the bigger girl. I took her down, and it was her dream to be American Gladiator, right? Like, she wanted to be an American Gladiator. And, like, I took her down in, like, 2 shots and, like, then she ran to the bathroom and started crying, and I realized at the moment, I was like, "Oh my, I am not gonna take this job away from her." Like, we're doing tryouts right now, and I just knocked her off of that. And I'm not really super passionate about being, like, put in spandex anyways, so I was like, you know and so, like, I kind of just, like, exited, like, the tryouts, and I jumped in my Impala, and was driving back to Vegas from LA, and the producers were calling me up, and they always, I keep in touch with them sometimes, and they're like, "Aren't you glad we made you do that?" But, like, and I finally picked up, and the producer was like, he was like, "Gina, please come back." And I was like, "No, no, man, like, I'm not about to take that job away from that woman. She wants to be there. I don't care if I'm there. And I'm not gonna cut." And they're like, "What? Helga? No, we love her." And I was like, "Okay, but I still don't really wanna do it." And it took them 4 phone calls in order for me to, like, I showed up the day of filming, and they hadn't even gotten an outfit for me, and I showed up, and, like, they ended up using me for almost everything, like, physical, like the wrestling and the pyramid and everything, because, just 'cause you got muscles doesn't mean you be so athletic. So I was it was such a fun job, and I'm glad I did it.
So what is your sort of daily workout regimen like now?
Well, for the last week, it was a little bit of crying in bed. I mean, I do want people to know that, this this has not been easy. And I think, I'm a human being. I have so much to learn and grow, and Um, I am deeply understanding. It's like the curtains got pulled, and I'm seeing so much. And so that's been a very large realization. So I do think when this does happen to people, it's like, you know, being canceled might become trendy one day. But don't think that when it happens to you, it's going to be easy, because it's not. It's going to be maybe possibly one of the hardest things that you've ever been through. But I think, each day that goes by, you kind of stand up and find your legs again, and you stop feeling sorry for yourself, and you show up. You show up to an awesome opportunity with people who want you to sit at their table. I think it was Nina Simone that said something along the lines of, you need to understand when love is no longer being served at the table. So you need to understand when to leave. And okay, I'm not going to shove myself down anybody's throats. We disagreed. It didn't go well. 2020 was a very emotional year for a lot of people. Um, okay, I'll get up and find another table, and hopefully invite more people to that table, because I'm about love and real, true diversity.
What was it like to move from MMA into Hollywood? How did that transition actually happen?
So moving from LA to Hollywood, I had just lost the biggest fight of my life, which that was another time where I was kind of feeling like staying in bed for a
There was
week.
some controversy around that fight, no? With regard to the person who you were fighting?
Oh, Cyborg? Are you talking about steroids?
Yes.
Yeah. It's not my job to go pointing the fingers at her. So I take the loss. I'll take it on the chin. I'll take the loss, because what happened to me the next week was kind of similar to this situation. Like, you showed up when I needed somebody, when I was in just hurt mode. And when I was in hurt mode, Steven Soderbergh showed up, who I didn't know what that was at the time. And he said, they like, "Oh, you know, Steven Soderbergh wants to have a conversation with you." And I'm like, "Who's that?" And then we had a beautiful conversation, and he said, "Okay, well, is this going to happen really quick or not at all?" And it happened. And then I found something tricky and new, because being an athlete, it's like you always have to be yourself out in front of everybody. And I've always been really attracted to art, because I think art really does change the world. I love art. I love putting out things where it's like, think about it, and everybody sees it differently. That's my favorite. Everybody feels it differently, and everybody finds different movies and shows and art, and like they find them at different points in their life, and it's their expression of they are. And I love that. And so here's my opportunity because I cannot paint for and, you know, like, so I found an art that I dove into. And yeah, that's not been easy. Sometimes I think, God, it was a little bit easier getting punched in the face. At least you didn't see the knife coming through your back.
Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Wire, one of the fastest growing conservative media outlets in the country. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our content.